What's up, everybody? It's me, Drew. We're back again, podcast episode number 2. So, just wanted to do a recap of UFC 206. Actually, before that, I do apologize. This actually was supposed to be uploaded yesterday, but I was having some issues doing that with YouTube. So, so we're going to go ahead and, I figured I was like, hey, you know what? I want to give you guys a better version of the original recording of this podcast. So that's why I'm re-recording it today and uploading it this evening. So to kind of get back to it, just want to recap UFC 206. Pretty much every fight went exactly, kind of how as I said it last time. I'm not sure if I elaborated how, in depth it was going to go, but so we'll go ahead and kind of go over that. So just kind of starting off with the main event, Max Holloway versus Anthony Pettis. Max Holloway pretty much, dismantled Anthony Pettis. The fight really wasn't all that, competitive, close, at least for, my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because ever since Rafael dos Anjos massacred Anthony Pettis when they fought for the title, he hasn't been the same. I mean, he lost to, I believe it was Eddie Alvarez, and then I forget who the other opponent was. I think he was on a 2-fight losing streak. Or actually, I think it was 3. I can't remember. I'll try to look that up, while we're doing this podcast today. But usually when fighters get dismantled in that type of fashion, and his wasn't just, a knockout. It was a 5-round, 25-minute beating, and he was never in that fight to begin with. So usually fighters they're not ever really the same after that. I think the only other fighter that kind of went through that same type of punishment was Junior Dos Santos. And within that fight with Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez, I mean, even though he got, TKO'd in the 5th round, it pretty much was, a beating the first fight. No, he knocked out Cain the first fight. Got a beating the second fight. And then they rematched again. And that's when, pretty much Cain, like I said again, knocked him out in the last round. So it was a beating as well. So usually fighters, they never recover from that. And Anthony Pettis is just falling in that next line of people, fighters that, get annihilated, and they're never really the same after that. So, yeah. So that fight, I mean, I think Max Holloway and Jose Aldo going to be a pretty good fight. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'm kind of torn, honestly. I'm 50-50 on it. Like, my emotional side, just because I respect Jose Aldo, but he hasn't really, fought all that, been active. And then on top of that, when he's active, with the last one, he got knocked out. I mean, it is the first, beating that, loss that he's taken within the last 10 years. But, I mean, Max Holloway, my emotional pick is to go with Max Holloway. My logical pick is to go with Jose Aldo, just because, to me, the only way you're going to beat Jose Aldo is if you knock him out, which Conor did, but you're not really going to outpoint him, just because I don't think Max Holloway is going to threaten him on the ground. I mean, he's, got some good striking, but it's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting to see nonetheless. So that right there, I'm going to have to kind of go back and watch the fights, of theirs, a little bit more in depth and kind of give my analysis when it comes to that. The one I was really excited about was Donald Cerrone knocking Matt Brown's ass out. Like, I can't stand Matt Brown. Like, it went just like I said. He didn't really threaten anywhere. He's kind of like one of those, I guess you could kind of say a jack of all trades, but he's not necessarily good in one particular area. I just think that he can just, take punishment from, certain fighters. But if he gets in there with, like, people that are well-rounded with knockout power, it usually doesn't go well for him. Evidence of his last couple fights. And Donald Cerrone's been like a beast since he went up to 170. I just think he was getting too old, and the weight cut is having an effect on him. But I mean, in all fairness, he hasn't really faced a wrestler. So it's going to be interesting to see once he moves up in the welterweight division, once he gets into the top tier, if he fights Tyron Woodley or if he fights like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's going to be interesting. I think that he's going to have problems with either one of those guys, but if it's not those two, I really don't see it unless, he would fight GSP. And even that would be different because, they do have a training relationship. I think I first saw Donald Cerrone back when GSP was preparing for Pin 2 on primetime. So I think that prior relationship would kind of maybe negate having them a fight just because Greg Jackson would be involved. But, outside of, either one of those three people, it would, I really don't see how he's going to beat it. The fight I honestly would like to see would be him versus Nick Diaz. That would be an interesting fight. Just because I can imagine the trash talking that's going on between them two and the skill set. Even though Nate, I believe, beat Donald Cerrone, it was, like I said again, you can see how he's been, fighting recently compared to, how he fought in the past, and I think the weight cut was the main issue with, with his performances. Another one that kind of surprised me was Cub Swanson versus Du Choi. That right there, that's going to be fight of the year. Choi surprised me, with his ability to be able to take a punch and also give one back. Cub Swanson, he just primarily won that based off of that. He could kind of dig a little bit deeper than Choi. But, that kid's going to be pretty something fierce here in the next few years. He's going to be pretty big. He's going to be probably the next big guy, I believe, based off that performance. And then the next fight was Kevin Gastelum versus Tim Kennedy. Again, Tim Kennedy just reminds me of a middleweight version of Matt Brown. Not necessarily good in one area. I can't really stand the guy personally. But, like I said, again, he doesn't really have a ton of MMA skills that you got to necessarily game plan for and worry about. Kevin Gastelum, he's more talented than Tim Kennedy, but he's going to have a problem, again, facing upper-tier fighters in that middleweight division. I wouldn't bet on him going back down to 170. To me, he doesn't necessarily take the fight game seriously. Reason why is I saw a report, I think it was yesterday, and he was saying that he ballooned up to 40 or 50 pounds before this camp. The problem with that is when you do that, you spend the majority of your camp trying to cut weight. So it's not necessarily like you can work on a lot of skill and game planning. Your battle is the weight. That's why, honestly, if you're a fighter, at least in my opinion, just because I've kind of, observed and, basically learned a lot, between fighting and boxing or MMA, you should probably stay within 15 pounds of your weight class. Just because, at that point, you don't have to necessarily worry about taking the weight off, because if you're about 10 pounds fight week, the rest is just water weight, you'll have no issue. But when you're like cutting, I think it was Johnny Hendricks that did the exact same thing. He fights at 170, and I think he was kind of in the similar issue where he was trying to cut all that weight, and it bit him in the ass. And they kind of have the same build as well. So, and the common thread between Kevin Gastelum and Johnny Hendricks is that they used to have, they both employed Mike Dolce for their nutrition purposes. Now, within my inner circle of friends, I've kind of said that Dolce is kind of overrated. It's not like any other people can't do what he does, but he had both of those guys on weight, so evidently he was doing something. I don't think he ever really had any of his fighters miss weight. So he's doing something right. So, bite the bullet, pay the guy or pay somebody of equal knowledge so you can make weight and just don't balloon your ass up over, 30 to 50 pounds above your weight class. That's idiotic. And if I was somebody running, a fight promotion, I wouldn't book that guy at 170. He'd have to prove to me on a consistent basis that he can make that weight. And I wouldn't expect for him to do that, again. And then I think the last one was, for at least the main card, was Emil Meek versus Jordan Mean. I was going with Mean just because I kind of knew more about him. I didn't really know what to expect from Meek, but from what I've read and some footage that I've watched recently, that's going to be another guy that's going to be a beast. And something that I've been kind of paying attention to recently is that a lot of the guys from the UK, they're coming in better than these guys in the States and Brazil. It's kind of weird to say that, but I don't think there's really any Brazilian fighter that's a champion except for I think it's female Amanda Nunes. That's it. And I think it's just because they primarily focus on jiu-jitsu, and I don't think their striking is necessarily, crisp as the guys is from the UK. All thing you have to do is teach those guys wrestling, and they come in with a better base than a lot of these guys now. I personally think I used to be in favor of wrestlers had the best base. I still think they do, but they tend to headhunt, and that's because the gloves are so light. So they don't have to worry about necessarily be taken down. If they learn submission defense, they can sit there and throw that punch. Like, say, for instance, Josh Koscheck. He necessarily wasn't all that good of an all-around fighter, but he was a good wrestler, exception of him facing, like a GSP. And the reason why I think he lost that fight with GSP is just because it was so predictable. It was overhand right. That's stereotypical. We can go with Chad Mendes. Another overhand right. I think Chad Mendes is a little bit more well-rounded than Koscheck. But, similar thing. Johnny Hendricks. Overhand right. Another guy. Liddell, he did it overhand right. He was a wrestler. But the thing is that he can knock your ass out. But it was also based on a time where there was one-dimensional fighters. So I think the next guy that kind of resembles that is Tyron Woodley. Another guy. Wrestler, overhand right. Eddie Alvarez, wrestler, overhand right. So they all throw the same stereotypical shots that, through all the weight classes. I think another one is Anthony Johnson, too. I think the most well-rounded wrestler right now probably is Daniel Cormier. John Jones is one, too, but he doesn't throw. His is a different version of wrestling. It's Greco. So it's a little bit different stylistically. But, with the exception of those two, it really is power shots, overhand right. So it's easy to kind of know exactly where that shot's coming from. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not effective, because those fools have been knocking fools out. But when they go up against some guy that has a good camp behind him, has a good, well-balanced variety of attacks that will follow a game plan, they get exposed, i.e. GSP. He's probably the best one. That's the reason why it was so easy for him to fight wrestlers. He knew exactly where the attack was coming from. So, yeah, that's the reason why I think lately European guys have been kind of, beating everybody's ass, at least the up-and-comers. Conor McGregor, it's phenomenal to see what he's done against two wrestlers. Everybody thought it was an Achilles heel, and it really hasn't been. I called every one of his wins perfectly. The only one that surprised me was Jose Aldo. The outcome didn't surprise me. How fast it happened surprised me. I think it happened. Everybody else was saying, I expected towards the end of the first round, maybe second round. I wasn't expecting, 13 seconds. I don't think anybody was. But, yeah. So, kind of enough of that. I wanted to kind of go into UFC 207, the return of Rousey. This fight's going to be, it's kind of hard to pick it for me. Amanda Nunes versus Ronda Rousey. I'm going to go with Rousey just because she was dominating the division beforehand. One loss, I would write somebody off. But clearly she wasn't on her game. It was evident. Part of me, honestly, because I like Rousey, again, that went with an emotional pick. But, again, it all really comes down to skill set and the team that the fighter has behind them. Like Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn, those guys are not idiots. I was actually in Vegas I want to say, 5 years ago, for the UFC Expo. And I was talking with Greg Jackson for a little bit, and guy's cool as shit, but you can tell he's really smart. So they kind of played poker. They didn't show Holly Holm's full skill set within a couple of fights, because then it allows you to have more footage and know what kind of expect. But then again, Rousey's coach said that she could outbox Holly Holm. You're going to talk about somebody that's like saying Holly Holm could out-judo Ronda Rousey. That is the stupidest thing that you could possibly say. But, besides that, they had a great game plan, and Rousey fought a shitty fight. She actually was close to, taking her out, but you could clearly see that Ronda wasn't on her game. So, I think I'm going to go with Ronda. I think she comes out and blitzes Amanda Nunes. So, I actually picked Amanda Nunes to beat Miesha Tate. So, next one. Dominic Cruz versus Cody No Love Garbrandt. Now, I know it might piss off a few people when I say this. I am actually from Sacramento. So, we have a lot of team alpha male out here. I know a lot of people that train with those guys. But it's hard for me really to pick those guys to win fights. I'll kind of go in that a little bit later. But, it's no knock. Those guys are very, very, very skilled. There's a bunch of killers in there. I just feel that based on the skill set that they had, they have a lot of advantages within the fights, but they don't necessarily use them. And I'll go in that the podcast here within the near future, probably before this fight happens, before the 30th. But this is the way it's going to go, and it's pretty obvious. If it goes to decision, Cruz is going to win it. If somebody's going to get their ass knocked out, it's probably going to be Cruz, because Cody's got power. The only thing is that, can he catch him? And I don't think it's kind of like fighting Floyd Mayweather. It's hard to catch those guys because they know angles, and they're never usually in the same spot for you to basically load up. So, I'm torn, but if I had to bet my money on it, like saying literally bet everything in my bank account right now, I would probably bet on Cruz, just because for that division, he's like the Floyd Mayweather, at least with, defensive abilities and the way that he has an awkward style. So, again, it's hard for you to load up and hit him with a power shot. I think if I can remember good between the fight between Cruz and Dillashaw caught him, but also Dillashaw's quick, though, too. And I'm not sure if Cody is quick as well. So, we'll have to see about that. Again, I want Cody to win, just for simply fact I'm from Sacramento, but would I bet that he would win? Not too sure about that. That's just an honest opinion. Next one, Verdum versus Cain Velasquez. I've been on the record and said that Verdum's win against Cain Velasquez was a fluke. Here's why. One, Cain is never, his number one attribute, besides his skills, is his cardio. When I was watching the fight, I didn't realize he just got into Mexico City, what is the thing, about 2 weeks before the fight? That's in high elevation. So if your body is not accustomed to it, you're not, which is his number one attribute, is cardio, he's screwed. And I said Verdum, like once, the fight, was over, I said that was a fluke. That wasn't the real Cain Velasquez. Usually the only time Cain loses is when he comes off of a long layoff and he didn't respect the altitude. So he got his ass kicked. Next fight after that, Verdum gets knocked out by Stipe. Would I? And I told my wife and my boys who were here watching the fight, when I saw Verdum walk out and he was making that stupid ass duck face, I was like, man, this fool's about to get knocked the fuck out. Sure enough, he's about to get knocked out. He did get knocked out, and that's because he wasn't taking it seriously. And I thought his striking was good, but it was also overrated because Cain at that point was sucking wind. So I think, honestly, once Cain realized, he was breathing in and you've never seen him do that, he was done, because at that point he knew he fucked up. It was just like GSP versus Matt Serra. same type of situation with the exception of cardio. So once you get hit, and at least in his point, once he had to basically suck wind, he was done. He knew he was done. So, like I said, I told everybody on a neutral site, Cain Velasquez murders Verdum. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Cain's going to come back and make a statement. And when it comes to the heavyweight division, anybody knows me, I'm a big Alistair Overeem fan. He's one of my favorite fighters. But I've also been on the record that said when Cain comes back from that injury, I said he's going to get that belt and nobody's going to take it from him. If he fights regularly and he doesn't have those long leg offs, he's not going to get beat. It's just a simple fact. So I got Cain in that one. Next one, Dillashaw Lineker. I'm going to go with Dillashaw. I just think that he's just kind of like, it's like the Cruz Garbrandt fight and Lineker. They basically are fighting the same stylistically type of opponents. Dillashaw's not going to be in the same spot for Lineker to hit him. It's just not going to happen. So like I said again, I'm picking Dillashaw in that fight. And then the prelims, they're kind of okay. Hendricks versus Magny. Hendricks said he's going to retire if he gets beat by Magny. Again, I think Magny's going to get it. But the only thing is that he's coming off of a knockout loss as well. So this one, honestly, it's a coin toss fight. If I had to go with it, I would say that Magny has more tools, but then again, he's got to watch out for that power shot, and he's been proven he can get knocked out. So that will be interesting. Dong Young Kim versus Saffiedine. Again, I think Kim's just going to take him down. Saffiedine's got the boxing, so it's whoever can impose their game plan is going to win that fight. I haven't really heard. It's Powell versus Garcia. I don't know too much about that particular fight, so I've seen Garcia fight a couple fights, so I'm probably going to go with Garcia. Then they have another prelim fight, Oliveira, Charles Oliveira. And Tim Means is Means is fighting again. Actually, not my fault. I got them mixed up. It's not that was Jordan Mean that fought before. This is Tim Means. So again, that's gonna be an interesting fight. I'm probably gonna go with Alex Oliveira. I did get it mixed up with Charles Oliveira, but I'm gonna probably go with Alex, the Cowboy Oliveira, in that fight. Tim Means again. To me, he's kind of like he falls into the category of a Matt Brown, and what's his name? I just said is Tim Kennedy. He falls kind of within their styles of fights. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Good little card to kind of finish the year. I'm excited for it. Yeah. So the next thing I kind of want to go over real quick is just supplementation. I think that's a lot of things that go on within the supplement industry that need to be changed. I just want to kind of address it, but not go into full detail about it, just because that kind of deserves its own podcast. So, yeah, it's an interesting topic, none the least. Seems to be like there's a new supplement company coming up every single day. And it's kind of hard unless you know exactly what you're looking for, which ones are good and bad. I mean, they kind of all do the exact same thing. It's just like some are better than others. So we'll kind of touch over that a little bit. So I'm on bodybuilding.com right now. Phenomenal website. I think it's the best place to get supplements. I think the next one is on it as well. That's more of a brand instead of just a website. So we'll go over that as well too. So I'm just looking at the top 50 supplements, and I've kind of tried them all. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I think the top supplement that's bought on bodybuilding.com is Gold Standard Whey. I've tried it before. It's good, but it's just like to me, it's a starter protein, and just because it's cheap, it's kind of middle of the pack. It's cheap, effective, but it's kind of it's like, say, if you get your kid a car and you get him a Honda. Like, everybody starts off with either a Honda or a Toyota, seems like, or Ford, something like that. That's, to me, is just a starter protein. And then we'll kind of go over that a little bit in depth here on the next podcast. Amino Energy, that right there is it's really good. You can use it as a pre-workout or a post-workout. It doesn't have a ton of caffeine in there, so it's one of those things where if you take it, you can kind of have it as, kind of play around with the dosages. I believe you can kind of do a 3-4 scoop thing, and it's effective. It's a good one to kind of take, again, if you're sensitive to caffeine. And a lot of the pre-workouts on the market all have caffeine in it. So it's a pretty basic one right there. I like it. I took it for about a year or two, off and on. I was going between that and then Optimum Nutrition's. They used to kind of have it. It's called Pre, but now it seems like they just they sell it in pre-manufactured bottles instead of an actual powder. That I like the Pre. That was probably one of my favorite pre-workouts. And the next, that was one of my favorite pre-workouts. Primarily, the one I'm taking now is gym pre-workout, pre-gym, and I personally think that's like one of the best ones to use. And the reason why is usually if you've taken a lot of pre-workouts out there in the market, they tend to crash. It's kind of like, like a sugar rush. Like 15, 20 minutes into your workout, and you feel like you don't, not necessarily like you're tired, but you just don't have that seem like within your workout. That one to me is the best because it's sustained. So I still feel that in about, if I work out for 90 minutes, I'm still feeling it for 90 minutes. And that's no bullshit. I don't get paid from them at all. I'm biased a little bit just because I've taken it so long and my body still isn't used to it in regards to where I don't feel the beta-alanine in there. And usually that's when you can tell if it's a good one because you feel it. You feel like you have spider sense all throughout your workout. So I think that's an effective one. Another, I haven't really tried this one. It's Evolution Nutrition. I've seen that for a little bit. I haven't tried it. Nitrotech, I tried that back in the, what was it? I was in the Navy, so that was about, 2000 to 2004, off and on. That was the one that they sold on the base, at the base of GNC. And that was good for what it was, too. I haven't tried it recently, but it's an okay brand, Muscle Tech. I kind of think that they used to be kind of the top dog back when Hydroxycut was the fat burner. Shoot, I remember that back in the day. It was effective. It had ephedrine in there, but my stance on that is kind of weird. I feel that ephedrine necessarily isn't bad if you know exactly how you're taking the supplement. And that's usually the only time the government gets involved within the supplement industry is when people start dying or getting really sick from a supplement. They did that to a couple of them. It was Hydroxycut, and I think it was Jacked, and it was Craze. But, so what happened basically was that a lot of high school athletes would be taking this. Usually it was football players, and they were trying to lose a little weight before the season started for some odd reason, and they would do it. They would take them right before practice. So what happens is that when they took it right before practice, their body gets dehydrated. When you're taking any type of supplement, you constantly need water. everybody knows that usually during training camps, or at least with high school football, like you can't take a supplement like that because your body is working extremely hard and you become dehydrated and it starts fucking with your kidneys and your liver and stuff like that. So a lot of kids were dying from this. So what does the government do? They go and basically say, all right, it's because of ephedrine. That's the reason why this is happening. Yeah, it was true. It was because of that, but they failed to see that these kids were being a bunch of dumbasses and taking it and not being educated on it. And that's partly the thing with the whole supplement industry, is that people need to be educated exactly on what they're taking. Try it. If it doesn't work for you, not every supplement's going to work for you. So that's pretty much the reason why those supplements got pulled off. And those are actually some of the best supplements. I tried Hydroxycut. I tried Jacked. Jacked to me is probably one of my favorite pre-workouts of all time, just to be quite frank. It was Jacked, C4, and Gym. Gym's my favorite now because it's the one that, anytime if you see Jacked right now, it's not the same formulated version as it was before. It's not. So don't be thinking that you're getting the same Jacked as you were getting it 15 years ago. It's the neutered version of it. And that brings me to right now I'm looking at C4. That's a pretty good pretty good pre-workout. That's number 5, and number 6 is pre-gym. We kind of talked about that. Evolution Nutrition BCAA, branched chain amino acids. That's number 7. Then the next one, number 8, is Gym's Pro Gym. This is a pretty good protein. I normally fluctuate between Pro Gym, and Dimetize. Just because I want a different effect. Certain points it's like, and flavor is key as well. Gym's S'mores is probably the best protein I've ever tasted. The next one would be Dimetize orange creamsicle, just because it tastes like an orange creamsicle, like ice cream bar. So that's pretty good. And then their fudge brownie. But Pro Gym is it's a multi-type of protein. It is, I'll click into it real quick. It is it has a casein protein in there. It's a quality whey, and it's got an egg protein. So it's basically feeding your muscles nonstop at different points. So that's the reason why I think a multi-blend protein is probably the best one. And then in order to kind of get a different taste, Dimetize would be the next one to go. I really don't like Optimums. It's kind of bland. And again, like I said, it's just a starter protein, in my opinion. I know I have a couple of friends that take it. So, more power to you. I'm just giving you my point of view when it comes to that. But it's pretty good. It is now available at GNC. I personally won't buy my supplements from GNC. I was having a debate with one of my past coworkers, and I personally don't like GNC. I think that they try to push certain supplements on you, and you're not necessarily getting what you pay for, and you're getting it overpriced. I think they changed a couple of their pricings at on certain supplements, but for the most part, it's just customer service, and it really comes down to what they try to push on to customers that they don't necessarily need. I think you should always get what you need and don't get what you don't need. So, yeah, and then I think to end out the 2 is Muscle Tech's creatine and the Evolution's Nutrition. It's like a pre-workout. So, Evolution seems like it's on the come up. A lot of people are buying it. It could be price. It could be effectiveness. But those are just the top 10. I could go on forever. This is the top 50 list. Not everything is on there. I think a supplement that doesn't get enough credit is ZMA. I love ZMA. I swear by it. It helps me with my sleep. It's not necessarily a sleep aid, but it just kind of helps you get into that the REM sleep. That's where I usually kind of get on average about maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. And when I go to sleep, I get into the deep sleep. Wife gets jealous of me, but that's kind of how I do. I don't go to bed just to kind of go and lay in bed. I go to bed and go to bed. So yeah, that's kind of enough on that. But I kind of want to go over a little bit about Onnit. Onnit is it's a natural supplement company. It's really good for athletes because some of the stuff that you can get over the counter can be considered a performance enhancing drug. So usually, especially if you're athletes, they're getting tested for that. When it comes to supplementation, Onnit's probably the best one to go just because it's all natural. You know exactly what you're getting into, putting into your body. It's not, what would you call a proprietary blend, which proprietary blend means when they can basically say it's proprietary to them, and they don't have to tell you exactly how much is in what they're trying to say is in their supplement. They'll put on the label, they'll say proprietary blend of this. So you don't know necessarily what's in it. Doesn't mean that it's not anything that is supposed to be in it, or what's the word called? Actually, yeah, it could mean that too. But what it primarily means is that it could still be effective. They're just not going to tell you exactly how much of it's in there. So, yeah, I think there's really only a couple supplement companies that do that. It was Nutribolic. Then it's, Jim Stepani's company. And then Cage Muscle by Chris Gathian. I'm so bad at pronouncing names. But, yeah, and then Onnit kind of does the exact same thing as well. So my favorite supplement from Onnit personally is Alpha Brain. I got ADHD. What helps me kind of, sit there and focus is being able, and it helps with memory as well, is Alpha Brain. I take a form of the pill form, and then I also have the instant one. I actually kind of need to replace my order and order some more of both, but I swear by that one. That's probably the best supplement that I've had from them. And then the other one is Digest Tech or Total Gut Health. Really helps me with my digestion. I'm lactose intolerant. So, yeah, I like to kind of have some things that normally would fuck with my stomach. I don't have them a lot. Cheese. I like cheese. And, I like, eggnog this time of the year. But I can't really take that because then, might be TMI, but I'd be in the bathroom all day long. So, yeah, those are the top ones that I like. They have, what is it? Oh, and the other one, I totally forgot about it, Earth Grow Nutrients. I really kind of have a hard time of getting my vegetables, my daily greens in there. So I take a scoop of that or two, depending on how I'm feeling, and I basically just chug that. And that's the equivalent of having my vegetables for the day. Definitely need that. They have a lot of other ones, key minerals, one with calcium, magnesium in there, krill oil. New Mood's another good one. I used to take it when I got off work. Kind of helps you, just kind of relax a little bit. It's a really good one. Shroom Tech Sport is good. I've tried that one. Strong Bone and Joint, I tried that one. My only knock against it is, man, those pills are massive. I haven't tried their pre-workout. I might here in the future. So really what it is, it's a combination of, really inner nutrition. It starts off with your brain, your gut, the ability to, have a pre-workout, they have actually, what do you call it, they have a couple of them where it's just like packs. So it'll be like Total Primate Care, which has a lot of, click into that one real quick. That's pretty good. It kind of really saves when you haven't actually buy the stuff individually. But it's a pack where you take, it's like, got a bunch of different vitamins that they sell, or supplements, I should say. It has a morning pack, and it has a, night pack with helps you with sleep and digestion and stuff like that. So it's pretty good. One that I want to try from them that I haven't done yet is MCT oil. I've heard some good things about that. So that's probably going to be my next one. It is the supplement company is a little pricey, but their stuff is good. So if price isn't really an issue to you, I suggest checking out Onnit. But if you want to kind of get more for your dollar, visit bodybuilding.com. They have a lot more variety, and their stuff is affordable. and it'll last a little bit longer. So it's kind of really on my knock. I kind of pick and choose between both sites to get what I'm looking for. So yeah, that's basically it. I just kind of want to. I think the next podcast I'm going to kind of go in depth a little bit more on the MMA skill sets, who I think the best fighter is of all time, why, and just like I said again, probably going in a little bit more on some nutrition, what I think is the future. I do want to shout out I'm So Alpha, Mike Rashid. I look up to that guy a lot. He kind of I'm gonna kind of take some, like, I come from the school of, if you want to be great, you study from the greats. He's probably one of the best ones, at least right now, when it comes to social media. And, with having a clothing line, supplement company, being able to have his own gym. So I'm trying some stuff right now. It's HGH spray. So far, it's pretty good. I'll kind of give you my review on it. But, that stuff right there is the new thing that I'm trying here. So, yeah. So thank you guys again for your support. It means a lot. It's something, this thing right here, I know we're going to start off small, but I know what my long-term goal is for the vision of my company that I ultimately want to form, and what I want to do and develop with this podcast. I do want to have some guests come on. I'm trying to work that out, but everybody, has a busy schedule right now. So that's something that I'm going to have to work on. So I think when I do that podcast, it's going to be a video/audio podcast. It's not just going to be an audio podcast. So, yeah, that's one definite thing that I can let you know about that. So I think Friday's show, again, it's going to go in a little bit more on nutrition, my bread and butter mixed martial arts, and I think I'm going to have a random topic, I posted this thing on my Facebook page, and it was about somebody who was classifying rappers. So we're going to go into that as well. We're going to address that topic of the rap game and what are my thoughts about it now. For many people that don't realize it, I actually have a degree in music business. I don't think it's a business necessarily I want to get into again, because I wasn't a fan of music at that point. I was so overly critical of it, where it's not really for me. I give people my friends that still do it, I give them my opinion on certain things, but necessarily as in getting back into the business, I don't think I'm going to do that. So I'll kind of go in depth why at the same time. So again, thank you. Thank you again for your support. Stay tuned. Next podcast will be done on Friday. Will be uploaded on Friday as well.